This is the original esport racing game. This is iRacing.
Usually at the start of a broadcast, I attempt to introduce the championship situation or make pithy remarks about the circuit used for the current round. Today, of all the strange combinations we've done over the years on GSRC, I'm not quite sure I can do today justice with a clever metaphor. I'll lay the facts out plain. The Kamel GT cars are racing on Monza's combined oval with no chicanes. No, don't head to your calendar, April 1st was months ago. This isn't a joke. But like many of the drivers and probably much of the audience, here in the booth, we're eager to see how this will all play out as we get ready to watch round 5 of the iRacing Kamel GT series. And you'll see it all live here on the global SimRacing channel and the iRacing Esports Network. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Adam Lindgren. Behind the scenes is our director, Sean Crackers Ambrose, and he's using cameras provided by Ducky Beard. Adam, this isn't our first time covering this layout of Monza. I mean, the Lotus 49 community comes here on a regular basis, but not everyone watches that series, so fill us in on this incredible track.
Not a problem, Joe. So most drivers on the iRacing service have raced the GP layout of Monza for the IMSA and later ILMS series, but this layout is vastly different. Clocking in at 6.2 miles or 10 kilometers, the Autodromo Nazionale Monza combined without chicanes is a bonsai track layout used to host Formula 1 through the 60s until 1972, when the chicanes were added to slow the cars down a bit. And if the F1 cars needed slowing down, how about the Kamel cars with their massive turbos? Well, the Nissans only have 4 braking points over the entire 10-kilometer circuit, and the Audis have 5 and an extra lift under the pedestrian bridge at Roccia. These drivers will be wishing for the lack of downforce from the Lotus 49 and stripping away whatever they can to enable the highest top speeds and maximum drafting potential on every straight and through the massive variable 30-degree banking of the oval. Speeds will reach over 190 miles an hour for the Audis and only around 185 to 190 for the Nissans, as both cars get extremely unstable over the massive bumps of the old circuits, and the Audis may actually gain on the Nissans on the straights. Joe, I'll be honest, I can't really make sense of this place with these cars, but I'm looking forward to seeing these drivers take their best shot at it. So let's take a ride around Monza combined with no chicanes in our GSRC lap guide.
All right, we've got Martin Krajcik and the GSRC Nissan, so let's do a lap around Monza. This all starts out with the oval portion of the combined circuit. This means it's mostly going to be a drafting game for the first half of the lap. Everyone's going to try to trim their car out as much as possible to get the most straight line speed they can. There's not much trick to the line on this part. Mainly you'll be holding low in the corner and jockeying for position if anyone is close to you. The significant thing will be the bumps. This oval is wicked bumpy, which obviously doesn't affect this car too much with its tremendous downforce, but it does mean you need to be wary of causing damage on the underside of the car and costing yourself speed. Exiting off the oval, ease off the banking to avoid scrubbing off momentum, but also try not to hit the armco to the outside since the track gets very thin here. You'll continue to gain speed down the traditional front stretch until you hit the Curva Grande. Incredibly, you still won't be lifting, even while taking this corner at around 190 miles per hour. The first time you ever take your foot off the throttle is here at the modified Della Rosa chicane. Then finally you hit the brakes for the first time into the first Lesmo. Try to keep in mind that you've got as little wing as possible in the car, so take it easy getting back on the power. The second Lesmo will definitely be an important one as well, because you've got to get a decent run down to the Ascari chicane. While the drafting parts of the track will be easier for passes, on the last lap, this chicane is likely to see a Hail Mary. As usual, don't climb those black and yellow curves because they can damage or spin the car. Make sure not to hesitate too long on the throttle, then switch sides and get ready for Parabolica. This hairpin has an increasing radius, which means you've got to bleed back onto the power well before the turn is over. Wheel spin or a slow exit will affect your lap times greatly with this taking us back to the oval. And that's it, a mere 4 braking zones over 6+ miles. But hopefully, if you've kept it all together, you've now finished a lap around Monza.
You see a truncated lap around here since, well, you're flat to the floor for much of it. There's not much to talk about for these lap guys. There is plenty to talk about on the championship, though, which is really fascinating this season. Starting off with the prototypes, the GTP Drivers Championship. Up at the top of that, you have Justin Albrecht. You're used to seeing Fabian Gerber at the front of the points, but Justin has had a very good season so far. In fact, he just jumped up to the top spot this last one. Johnny Bell as well, moving up into second. And Fabian Jungbluth was up at the top before. You can see he lost 2 spots to the last round. Now, Gerber is coming back into things. He's gained 2 positions to up to 4th, and Martin Krejcik falls down to 5th. But this is certainly not the typical places we're used to seeing. And we're 5 rounds in. We're almost halfway through the season after today. Adam can bring us up to speed on the GTOs as well, the Audis.
Definitely. We have right now Nick Bakanos leading the GTO standings. He's only leading by 2 points over Rob Olnick. This battle's been going on since the drop of the green a couple weeks ago in our first round. Ove Trangrade has closed in the gap a little bit, only 5 points behind. These 3 are going to be battling it out for the entire season to see who wins the GTO championship. Riley Thompson's 38 points back, having not started and not finished a couple of the races this season. And then Reed Miller, 53 points back for Dirty Torque.
In case someone hasn't watched this series before, let's bring you up to speed on what exactly this race will be like. As we mentioned, we are in round 5, and those 2 little droplets you see indicates that they have 2 rounds that they are allowed to drop their worst results in the points. So it basically gives a little bit of leeway in the championship for drivers not to feel like they have to show up every week, since, well, nobody's getting paid to do this. So just allows you to have some time with family or friends or do other things. The race distance is 40 minutes. Now, that is the sprint format, and normally you can see it says no stop for fuel. That is because there's no scheduled stop for fuel today, but we'll talk about it in a bit. This is a thirsty track. We heard Adam mention that there's only 4 braking events in the Audi and 5, or in the Nissan, and 5 for the Audi. So that'll be a big talking point today. And there you can see that 25 points goes to the victor of each class for today. We're just getting ready to get some lap times in on the board, so we'll watch those trickle in. Let's go to, well, actually, no, first, before I mention that, a real quick mention, IESN, as always, is bringing you this broadcast. So make sure and subscribe to the iRacing Esports Network. All you got to do that is go to their YouTube page. There's a big red button if you haven't subscribed yet. Make sure and click that, and you'll get all of the Kamel GT series in your YouTube feed. Now we can go to Adam, talk about that fuel thing that we were talking about with the Nissans. What is the situation here with that so that our audience can understand?
Okay, so the Nissans going flat out are gonna have to make a stop. It'll be somewhere around the realm of 30 seconds in pit lane, and that's because they're flat out for so much of this course. Their fuel kit tanks just can't take it, and so they're gonna have to stop unless you're in heavy draft and you're able to maintain in that heavy draft. So at that point, you might be able to make it to the end on fuel. So that's going to be very difficult. It'll be interesting to see whether anyone does that. We have a couple of guys in here who are used to doing that thing, but this is a huge field. So if there's any chance that you're going to be able to make it work on lifting and coasting a little bit around these high banks, then this is the race to do it. We have over 35 drivers in this field, so this is going to be a good chance that somebody's going to be able to try this no-stop strategy in the Nissans. The Audis, on the other hand, they can make it all the way for sure.
Now, I'm looking at the timing sheets for qualifying here, and Albrecht is in second. Not a huge surprise. Cullen Brown, this is a name I'm not as familiar with. Adam, I don't know if you've seen him race before, but he clearly is pretty fast. He's got a 5,000 I rating, so he knows how to race here. And he's just about to come around for his second time lap.
Yeah, we've seen him stop by a couple of times. He likes doing more of the oddball races like these, and he's quite fast. But the thing about driving the Nissans is that, or the Audis, is that they're very strangely inconsistent vehicles. And so if you haven't been racing them often, it's really difficult to maintain race pace and maintain control of these cars over the course of an entire race. And so while Colin Brown, actually Justin Albrecht just goes fastest now, while Colin Brown is on that front row, we're going to be able to see whether or not he can manage the car throughout this entire race.
That's a good point, especially in the slower corners, dealing with that turbo lag. So Albrecht manages to pip him, but only by less than 1/10 of a second. Olenek is your provisional pole sitter over in the GTO class. He's just coming across for his second one. Must have had an off, it looks like. And checking to see if anybody else is able to overtake him for the lap times. I see Luis Enriquez coming across, and he does move up to third with that lap, so that was a good one for him. But otherwise, everybody is now done as the checkered flag has come out. So let's go to our starting order, the grid for today. Justin Albrecht, as we mentioned, is going to be on the pole with Cullen Brown starting in P2. Then Fabian Gerber has himself in third. He's got a little work to do to try to get another win out there. Steve Bycroft will be P4 with Jamie Hall starting fifth. The outside of row 3 has Stephen Workup there. Phil Lake is in seventh with Tobias Gerber, the brother of Fabian, will be starting 8th position. Clayton McLeod, unusually far down on the timing sheets here in the Nissan. He'll start in 9th with Timu Toika rounding out your top 10. Big field here in the Nissans today. Martin Krajcik is in 11th with Radar Anderson starting 12th. Then the next row has Mitchell Welker to the inside with Tommy Unpola in 14th. Tanner McCullough, the driver we expect most likely to try and go all the way on a single tank, will be 15th. David Minorerovich will be starting in 16th, Zach Buchanan will be 17th and Louis Emerton P18. Then Eric Luke comes back for more retro racing this morning in P19. Fabian Newgluth 20th, Johnny Bell 21st, John Keefe 22nd, way far down for him, Jewel Fletcher Wolf in 23rd, and Juha Ilehainen in 24th position.
All right, the GTOs are starting with Rob Olnick on pole. Alongside of him is Riley Thompson in second place. Starting out the race, we have in third Luis Enriquez, and then Nicholas Vacanos in fourth place. On the second row, we have Reed Miller on the third row for the Audis with Matthias Habdahl in the sixth position. Then we have Henry Pitkanen in seventh, Michael Haynes in eighth, Luis Fernando Simões in ninth, and Riley Downey 10th. Dave Cohen 11th, and Stephen Jones 12th.
We 3 drivers failed to get a lap in out of this very large field today. We'll see how many actually see the checkered flag at the end of the race itself. We're just waiting for the pace car to take off, which it does now, as they're going to do a rolling start here for this. I want to say this is the first time we'll have seen a rolling start on this combined circuit, because usually in the past we've watched them do a standing start in the Lotus 49.
So Joe, with this big of a field of Nissans, if the Audis don't give a big enough gap, they're going to be on the back of the Nissans very quickly coming out of the oval, and that's going to be a dangerous situation. You don't want the Audis trying to pass the Nissans going into the twisty bits later on in the course. So they're going to have to really woe it up here and give a big gap back to the Nissans.
You can see on screen that they have given a fairly large gap, so I think they'll be good as they come out of Parabolica. I don't expect them to be able to get the draft and start to catch them as they come through, but look at how large that field of prototypes is. This is going to be a little bit of madness as they come off the final corner. The Porsche pace car should peel in a moment, and we go racing for 40 minutes. There it goes, giving control to Justin Albrecht, and he is off like a shot, but don't expect him to be able to run away from the field as the cars start to get wound up and come on onto the banking for the first time. Everybody looking like they are trying to take the shortest route. They are almost all below the yellow line.
Wow, yeah, look at those guys go. They're all below the yellow line they're pretty much single file at this point, but the Audis, that is not the case. We have 2 wide and almost 3 wide in the back of the field. These guys are in the draft, and they're going hard in the paint now. They're just screaming around these banks. These getting up to speeds of almost 174 miles an hour just around the first banking. This is really impressive, but this is when things are going to spread out. The widest part of the track, this is the time to pass, but nobody can really make a move. Look at the 29 come up through the field. Amazing.
Oh, for a car that is effectively a brick, it punches a huge hole in the air. There's still 3 wide. They're going to have to get this sorted out as they come off the banking because it's going to get incredibly narrow here. We're seeing one car get into the other, and that is Riley Downey, who gets tipped up into the Armco, manages to keep from hitting anybody, but he loses time.
It was a miracle that he was able to save it. Impressive. Let's get back to the Nissan GTPs now.
Oh, and there's a big accident. Timu Toika involved. Looks like Zach Buchanan is in there. There are cars just scattered all over on the way into De La Rosa. Clayton McLeod is on his lid.
Expected the wreck to happen actually as they were doing the chicane, but we're going to take a look at the replay now with Timo Toika and see what happened there. Oh my goodness, it looks like somebody just pinballed off the inside wall there.
Yeah, I think someone drifted a little wide. A couple cars drifted wide. Watch this, through Curva Grande. That is...
a lot
Tobias
of cars.
Gerber. Yeah, Tobias Gerber is the first one to go out. And then when they tried to return to the track, there was just miscommunication and chaos ensued. As we come back live, it is still Albrecht leading overall. And I said he wouldn't be able to scamper away, but well, look at this. He's pulled a 1-second gap over Steve Bycroft at this point. And Bycroft has behind him. Now, in the Lotus 49s, Adam, we tend to see them re-catch anybody who starts to pull away just because the cars are faster working together, almost like a Talladega situation. Is that going to be the case today?
The Nissans do not have as big of a draft effect as the Audis or the Lotus 49s, so it's really about individual pace and taking the right lines. And so it's going to be difficult for them to make draft passes, but the draft does have some effect. So if you can get a good run off of a corner, it is going to help you make the pass.
Phil Lake and Colin Brown move themselves into 3rd and 2nd respectively with the draft through the oval. Now, the other thing in this is these cars can all work together to try to save a little bit of fuel, but if Albrecht is all by himself, he's almost committed to the one pit stop strategy.
Yeah, this is almost like Daytona. You don't want to get too far out front. He actually needs to back up a little bit and let these guys catch up to him if he wants to make it on no stops. But he must believe that everyone's going to have to stop, so he's just taking off into the sunset.
Boy, look at the action behind them, though. It is still fairly close. Everybody behind our 2nd place driver, Colin Brown. I mentioned Phil Lake is in there. Bycroft, Fabian Gerber, Welker, Unhola, Krajcik, all out there running in this 2nd group. And Tanner McCullough's had a problem. Looks like he had a spin, and that was actually just in front of a problem for Stephen Warkup.
Yeah, Tanner's been struggling with his set. He's taken a lot of downforce out of the car, and that just looks like the downforce wasn't able to keep the rear tires under check there as he goes into this corner. Oh wow, looks like he must have been a little distracted there.
Yeah, that was Stephen Warkup, who unfortunately hit the bump in De La Rosa and found the wall. So a few drivers had to take evasive action. Let's see, it looks like we found Warkup's incident. He was already side by side. That's McCullough actually just next to him. McCullough backs out of it.
Warkup hits those bumps and it just sends him into the wall. It's an extremely bumpy surface inside of Rosa there.
Meanwhile, coming back to the Audis, it is still Rob Olenek, your leader. Riley Thompson is giving chase. They're starting to pull a little bit of a gap to Mukanos behind, but they are on the road course portion of the lap. Now that they come back to the oval, I suspect Mukanos should be right back in the thick of it.
Yeah, they're not far enough away yet to break draft, but Riley Thompson's going to get a good draft off of Rob Olenek now, and should be able to catch him going into the oval, but the oval's so highly banked and so tight that sometimes the Audis have a hard time gaining while they're on the oval, but Riley's found a good line now. Let's see whether he can make a pass around the outside.
He's trying. He slingshots up high. Oh, but look at that car bobble around as it bounces over this old pavement. He's managed to get ahead of Olenek.
And here comes Luis
back into line.
Luis Henriquez up the inside.
He's going to go for the lead as well. Wow. And with that, we have two new leaders within about a corner and a half. Up to the front, the red machine you see of Henriquez as another slingshot down low for Riley Thompson. Kicks off a potential 3 wide. Olenek thinks better of it. He backs out.
That's the power of the 4-car draft that we saw with Luis Henriquez there, really making that work. But Riley Thompson getting a good draft off the corner, taking a good high line to get the most speed out of the Audis. He's going to try and hold it here, but it's not going to quite work there around that corner. Now we have a 5-car pack for the lead.
Olenek gets himself a decent run, but coming up to the very quick, shortened De La Rocha chicane, he doesn't want to try and risk the car. So again, he'll stay in third. Mukanos is the one you see fourth in line, and that is Matthias Havdahl, who is fifth in line. A little bit off track for Riley Thompson coming through the first Lesmo. That allows Olenek another peek to the inside, but can't do anything with it. Oh, here's an interesting development. Tobias Gerber, I don't think he hit anything.
He has rear end damage. It looks like he might have been hit.
Just a little bit of touch at some point on this lap. They have no spare car in this series. Now, as we go to second place, this is a battle between Unhola and Brown. The thing that I think is interesting about Gerber is that I imagine this is him saying, all right, I'm not going to be able to make it. Let's pit early and see how I shake out.
That's true. That's something that could definitely be going on there. But also the battle for P4 is going on. Steve Bycroft under challenge by Fabian Gerber and Phil Lake. They're right behind this battle for P2. Look at them almost go side by side.
Looks like Gerber's going to stay in line, though. He's just going to allow himself to be towed along. Brown did get past Unhola for second place. They've dropped this group that we're looking at being led by Bycroft, but they also have not caught Justin Albrecht. The Audis are in their typical oval battle once again, and it is Olenek up at the front of the group for the moment. Almost thought Thompson caught the wall a little bit at the Armco to the outside. They're going to go 2 wide off of the oval onto the regular main straight. Thompson carries the speed. He manages to get up to the front, but here comes the driver at the very back, Havdahl, with a run. He lifts, just going to stay behind, and he's still going to have to give the lead back because up at the front, Olenek retook the slipstream, retook the lead, and he's in front again.
It's really impressive to see these Audi drivers tackle this track, especially the banking. These Audis are hard to keep in a straight line at high speed on the best of days, but on the banking, it's just so bumpy. It's really impressive to see these drivers able to handle it the way that they are.
This has been a fascinating and wild race thus far. We still have quite a few out there running, thankfully. Only a handful of DNFs so far, of which I believe Michael Welker is the latest. Back to second place. We're going to see another change of hands. Unhola going to lead Brown now.
Yeah, it looks like Unhola got a good run off of that banking, but Colin Brown going back to the bottom. He's going to try and get a run through the corner. The high side is going to give you a good launch off the corner, but the low side is definitely the shortest way around the track. So you have to take your pick as to which line you're going to take in the GTPs, because each one's going to have different benefits. The high line gives you a good launch out of the corner, as we can see as Unhola goes for the pass again, but Colin Brown was able to get through the corner faster. So people are going to be paying attention to that when it comes to the last lap and making their decisions on how they're going to be exiting the Parabolica in a similar fashion.
Yeah, it looks like Tommy's going to be able to come away with second place now that they are solidly into the road course portion. Now, I know you've raced both disciplines. Do you think having oval experience would actually help here today for some of these drivers?
Definitely. Anyone who's raced Carb Cup will understand the challenges of holding your line along a bumpy track. With the old Daytona, the way it was paved is that it was very hard to hold a line, and this is exactly what we're talking about. This kind of draft racing, especially in the GTOs, is very similar to Daytona or Talladega. The only difference is you do not want to be bump drafting around here.
Let's just switch back to the Audi leaders, because once again, Riley Thompson's doing just about the same thing we saw last time, running the high side. See if he could get the shot off the corner, and yet again, it does in fact work significantly, and Rob cannot slot back into line. In fact, this car second in line now, Luis Enrique, can't get to the front because he's boxed in, and yet still Rob Olenek somehow manages to get back to the front.
It's possible that Rob has a little bit more of the drive going to the rear wheels. While you're going this fast, those front wheels, especially when you have low downforce settings, those front wheels are not being pressed to the track. So if you don't have enough drive going to the rear wheels, you're going to lose speed on the front stretch because you're spending a little bit of that engine power trying to spin those front wheels when they're not making much contact with the track.
I wonder if we could pop down a little farther in these GTOs, because we've had some good action we haven't been able to follow with Reed Miller, Riley Downey, and Henry Pikanin. This is for 6th place. It's been a 3-car fight. They're in the same situation as the leaders, except they've fallen off by a big gap. They're all fighting for this 6th position, unable to separate.
Yeah, Reed just picked up 2 positions on that lap just by the draft alone. And actually, we have another battle. It's now a 5-car battle, falling in behind Steve Bycroft for P4 of the GTP. It's a similar thing going on. Not the leaders, but they're really duking it out there up there. So like there's a lot of battles going on around the track, and just because of the way that the drafting is happening, it's really impressive. Take a look at this battle. See how close they are. This is where whoever can drive the best technically around these slower portions and through these strong bumps is going to be able to make the best time.
They've still got a good chunk of this race left to go. So obviously it's formed into a pack racing situation. Not a huge surprise for what we expected today, but there are some things we just could not have expected. Actually, where are the leaders in terms of the lap traffic with the Audis? Because I think Albrecht's getting relatively close.
Albrecht is catching up to the very back of the pack. It's going to be
Steve Jones, I believe.
He's still, yes. Steven Jones is only 7 seconds away, and it's gonna be a bit till he catches up to the back of them. I'd expect more around the 20-minute mark, but he's definitely catching, and quicker than I was expecting. I thought the Audis might be able to catch the Nissans through the banking, and that it would reduce. It would take the amount of time, but yeah. Oh my goodness, we're too wide, 2 abreast of the GTOs.
Oh, it's they try to get this sorted out. Now, they had 5 cars a minute ago. What happened? Did we lose somebody? Oh, yes. Henriquez. I'm going back to check to see what exactly happened to him. Wonder if he got a slowdown for cutting the course somewhere. Oh, actually, you know what? He got into Riley Thompson into the Parabolica. Just simply shoved the back of him when he outbraked himself. And Thompson, in his typical Thompson way, powered out of the slide with the 4-wheel drive. But poor Enriquez was not able to do the same, and he lost the group.
And actually, the back car in this pack, Matthias Hovdahl, this is a great race for him. He hasn't had this good of an opportunity. He hasn't had this good of an opportunity to be in the lead pack and catch a top 5 or a podium his entire time racing here this season. So this is a great race for him. So he's looking at a top 5 for sure if he can just hold it together and stay on the back of this front pack.
On board with the Scandinavian driver, just watching ahead. He's been waiting patiently. Even when he's gotten runs, he's lifted. Again, we don't need to worry about fuel for the GTO class, so he's not doing that for any sort of reason such as that. He seems to be just biding his time. Albrecht starting to catch up to Michael Haynes now.
Yeah, Justin Albrecht is going to have to start dealing with the back of the Audis. Michael Haynes and Luis Fernando Simões they're right together, so that might be a little bit challenging. But Michael Haynes is known for keeping an eye out in his mirror and knowing when to get out of the way. But it's when he gets up to the GTO leaders that things are going to get really interesting. And we'll see whether or not that gives an opportunity to Anhola, who's in second place now.
I don't know if we want to jump away maybe after this, but Fabian Jungbluth had a 360 spin through De La Roja, didn't hit anything, and kept going. Hopefully maybe we can get back to that later, but let's see what happens with the lapped cars now that our leader is quickly approaching. This will give us a real good idea of how much time the Nissans are actually gaining on these GTO cars through this oval portion.
It's actually quite significant, believe it or not.
Albrecht running at 194, 195. Two ahead of him running 176, so 20-mile-an-hour difference.
And Albrecht's going to have a hard time getting past these guys, but the two guys behind him, Anhola and Brown, they're going to have a harder time because they're battling with each other as well. So this is exactly when the multi-class battle really starts to heat up.
They're going to get bigger and bigger in the windscreen. Suddenly they're going to be just rushed upon. Look, whoa! Wow, I'm used to these Nissans catching the Audis fast, but that is going to be incredibly scary from inside the Audis when they come by on the oval.
Yeah, on tracks like these, it's really difficult to understand when the Nissans are going to appear. You get a call from your spotter that they're showing up, and then suddenly you blink and they've gone by you. And if you're not careful and you're on the wrong point on the track, they're just going to run you off the road because they're going so fast they don't know how to handle it.
Meanwhile, to the GTO leaders, they're dealing with Teemu Toika, who, remember, pitted. And is Toika actually... No, he's a lap ahead, I believe, isn't he?
Actually, he's a lap down from them.
Oh, you're right, yeah. I was trying to figure out with his pit stop if he went behind them, and indeed he did. So which of our leaders tries to tuck in behind to try to gain a little bit of speed and time?
I can also report that Fabian Jungbluth has gone to the pits. He's taking repairs, so it's going to be a bit for him.
Toika as well, grabbing some nice slipstream off of the GTO cars. He's going to be fully passed now with every one of them being demoted behind him.
This is good practice for the GTO leaders as we go on board with Riley Thompson, who's leading right now, as he watches Teemu Toika take off into the distance. That's giving him some significant draft, but it just looks like Rob Olenek has better pull in the straights.
Indeed, Olenek is coming up to his right side right now. And since he'll have the inside into Curva Grande, I think the lead should go right back to the number 8 car.
That it does, but can Nick Bukanos get inside to make a move on Riley Thompson? He cannot. So they're going to go single wide through this crazy chicane cut. This is the most bumpy part of the track. That's really difficult to hang on to in any car, much less the Audis and the Nissan.
Our battle for P5 and the GTPs just had to go by Dave Cohen. They're all very close to each other, but they're being led by Jamie Hall. And if I'm not mistaken, hasn't Jamie Hall been at the front of this pack for a large amount of time at this point?
No, actually it was Steve Bycroft who was leading. So Steve Bycroft has gone back 2 positions since the last time we checked in on this battle. So Jamie Hall making some significant inroads there.
Yeah, but I think that might have been intentional from Bycroft, because we keep talking about saving fuel and whatnot. I think Bycroft had his fill of being up front, decided to jump back in line, seeing if he could maybe try and stretch this thing to the end of the race.
Justin Albrecht's caught up to the back of some Audis, and actually one of them goes around. Riley Downey has gone around on the backstretch there. He just lost it coming out of that turn. So Justin Albrecht going by.
Let's see what exactly happened to Downey. Oh, it looks like coming out of a scar, he just took way too much of that last curb. He's actually fairly lucky he didn't hit anything. He gets all four wheels in the air.
Yeah, and that's just the power that he's just hanging on to it. It's actually quite impressive what he was able to do there. P1 in the Audis, though, it's starting to heat up when we come back live.
Yep, once again, it is Thompson, Olenek, Mukanos, and Hovdal, our four drivers battling for the lead. Let's stay with this, but Unhola seems to have come in for what I expect is a scheduled stop.
That's correct. Yes, it looks like some of these Nissans are deciding to pit early in an attempt to make inroads on getting that fuel done as early as possible. So that's interesting. I'm not sure how well that strategy will work, because if you don't have someone to work with, you're going to lose a lot of time around the banking without having a draft.
True, but I guess you'll know. Let's see, we're actually past halfway. You'll know by this point if you're saving enough fuel and if it's likely you could get to the end. So it might as well get it out of the way, I suppose. He comes out behind Tobias Gerber, we should point out. So Tobias is our highest pitter of the GTP cars as we continue to watch this battle in the GTOs being led by Thompson.
It looks like Tanner McCullough is gaining on Johnny Bell significantly, actually, as we're watching them, the signature blue of Tanner McCullough back there in the GTPs. These two guys...
No, Tanner actually just lost the position, and he was very slow on the oval. And I think this might be due to damage, because nothing really significant seemed to have happened to him.
Oh, and Johnny Bell just went around, actually, while we were looking at this. It looks definitely looks like Tanner really doesn't look like he was slow. It looks like he was just unstable there on the bottom of the track.
Huh, interesting. Let's try and stay with this replay if we can, because we'll see Johnny Bell in just a moment here get turned around. It happens in the first Lesmo, if I recall. They get back by the lapped Audi, and you can see Tanner continuing to just lose gobs of time. I wonder if this other bit of traffic may have taken part in throwing him off. Kicked up a little bit of dust on the way into De La Roja.
I think it did throw him off, yes. He probably got on the brakes harder than he wanted to, and with a brake bias change, he probably just spun the rear tires a little bit.
Well, that lost him the position back to both McCullough and to Gerber, who has gotten by. McCullough has since come into the pits.
And Albrecht has actually gone by the GTO leaders as well, so the GTPs are starting to catch the back of the GTO leaders, and so this is going to get interesting.
Yeah, especially with how feisty those GTO leaders have been. Whoa, Timu Toika, I suddenly went to him and found him tumbling and actually left the circuit. He went over the Armco. I believe he did, at least. Either way, he had one crazy ride. Here he is, the Bushfink car coming, and the bumps once again.
Oh my goodness.
Timu's day is pretty much done at this point now. So one thing we haven't been watching, as our leaders are now dealing with the GTO leaders.
Ooh, Colin Brown loses it coming out of the turn there.
Yeah, that's positions.
Phil Lake is going to be blocked here. This is really interesting as the GTPs try and navigate their way through here.
And they want to get by before they know that it's going to get even crazier with them through the oval portion. Now, these two are teammates. I suspect they've been working together. Hall and Lake, the Dirty Torque drivers, just seem to have been swapping back and forth on the oval portion, try to get themselves some time. And look at that, stream on by before they have to deal with a little bit of chaos that's going to erupt.
And that's given Riley Thompson a 1.2 second lead, but that's not going to hold. He's just going to lose time now on this banking while the other guys are in draft. In the background there of all of that, Matthias Hovdahl missed a shift coming out of the Parabolica, so he's way down on speed now. But look at this chaos as they go down the backstretch.
Pick your way through carefully. Bycroft got held up. That allowed Martin Krejcik to run him down. But they're going to go up high and around our leader in the GTOs as Riley Thompson stays out.
It's going to slow him down a lot. He's not going to be able to maintain his speed on the banking. You want to be up in the middle groove or the high groove for the Audis, but he's able to hold it a little bit as they go out. We're going to go on board with Riley looking back, and look at the speed that Rob Olnick is gaining.
Remember we said 176 for these Audis before? 186 currently for Rob Olenek. That's how much you can gain in the draft. But he's going to lift early. He's made up his ground. No reason to risk the car. He'll stay in second. Crisis averted.
And these guys have for sure dropped Matthias Hovdahl. He's off the back of the pack now. The battle for the win in GTOs is these three drivers.
As we were watching that, Bycroft lost that position to Martin Krejcik. I wanted to point out, no need to go back to a replay. It was an easy pass for the number 22. 13 minutes left to go. Albrecht has been all out on his lonesome at the front of the GTPs. I think it's pretty safe to say that he's got to come in for a pit stop before this thing is done.
He definitely does. It's just a question of, it looks like Phil Lake just taking the second position away from Jamie Hall there. Behind them, yes, Justin Albrecht definitely has to pit. But these drivers in the back here, unless they've been duking it out with no mind to their pit fuel strategy, so one of them might be able to go all the way, and that could make all the difference.
4 in a row. This goes from second place down to fifth of what you're looking at right now. Lake in second, Hall third, Cullen Brown fourth, and Fabian Gerber P5.
This is the best battle on the track as far as the GTPs are concerned, and it's been tight this entire race. There's really nowhere to go for these guys, and they really have to just try and min-max their lines and get the best speed that they can.
I love these angles that we're getting, seeing prototype cars on the banking. We're used to seeing that maybe at places like Daytona, but it still seems somewhat bizarre to see it here, and honestly kind of graceful and beautiful.
There is a beauty definitely to the way that bank cars look when they go around the banking, especially cars that basically are just a big wing like this Nissan GTP. Wow, look at this battle going on right there. What an impressive move from Jamie Hall. Phil Lake and Jamie Hall teammates, but they're battling like they've been fierce competitors all their lives.
Cullen Brown just going to sit behind them in P4. Maybe he's seeing if he could save that last little bit he needs to make it to the end. Another driver to take a scheduled stop, John Keefe, has come in and out, and he is returned to racing.
So the highest pitter for the GTPs is Tobias Gerber. He took a 10-second stop, which means he did not take tires. So tires are going to be a big factor. Tobias Gerber's might be in trouble, but he does have about a 5-second gap back to Unhola behind him, who was in second when he pit.
I was just wondering what the difference was in those pit stops, because I was eyeing that myself. So we'll see if... will tires actually make that much of a difference around here with it being flat out for most of it?
Well, believe it or not, the tires actually get quite hot around here, but it might not be that much of an issue. It's just in the twisty bits and the few chicanes that we do have where it might make a difference. And especially when you're trying to hang on to a car, especially through the bumpy parts, having hot tires might not be a good idea. But at the same time, there isn't that much turn, so if you just take it a little bit easy through those turns, they'll probably do just fine.
It is a relatively cool day, about 78 degrees on the track surface, and it's quite late in the evening as we go back to the battle for third now in the prototypes. It's Phil Lake under threat from Cullen Brown, but is he actually under threat, or is Cullen going to ride in that wake and lift as he goes? They're going to lap Clayton McLeod, who stays low to be out of their way.
And it looks like Phil Lake trying to challenge Jamie Hall again. These guys, all four of these guys now, it looks like they've split off a little bit from Fabian Gerber, who's about half a second behind. That's quite a ways, even with this draft. But look at that, Phil Lake going to the inside of Jamie Hall to try and make the pass.
Oh, and here he go. My goodness, Gerber caught them quickly. And it's time to go for Fabian, apparently, because he's going to go all the way from the back of the pack, all the way to the front. Gerber now into second.
And a bit. Wow, look at that gap he was able to pull on those GTP guys.
Do you think maybe he backed it off so that he could get a better slingshot?
Maybe he's practicing for the last lap.
Yeah, I just... That seemed a little weird that he fell off and then suddenly flew by so quickly. And Gerber is a multi-time champion, so we know he's a smart guy. I'm starting to think that he's getting a little clever here. Working their way past Juha Ilhalainen. As actually, well, this worked out perfect for Gerber. Look at that! He managed to lap him, and poor Phil Lake, Hall, and Brown got caught up by the lapped car.
There's no way they could have known that, but man, that really is super unfortunate for Lake and Hall. They really lost a ton of time, and it's possible that Gerber has broken the draft, so they might have to work together to catch back up to Gerber if they want to challenge for P2.
Okay, the plot thickens. Albrecht used to have a 7-second lead, did he not?
Yes, he did.
And it's now 3.5 seconds. Is he lifting and coasting?
So either he's lifting and coasting, or the battle for the lead at the end is going to get real interesting.
Yeah, I wouldn't think that they would suddenly catch him that quickly, because we haven't seen that work before. I'm going to go on board. Now, I expect you probably don't want to lift and coast here through the oval, but going into some of the braking zones and into the Della Rosa.
Tanner McCullough has taken significant damage and is in the pits.
What happened here? See if we can find a replay. Oh, you know, did he hit a bump in the oval?
It's possible. Oh my goodness, he's upside down.
Yeah.
Oh my word, what happened there?
Okay, some sort of, I believe this is some sort of net code.
Something
Because
like that. I've
on
never
my
seen
screen,
this before.
I see smoke and some tire tracks, but no car there. I wonder if someone was having a connection issue and he just did not see them, but the sim registered them. Yeah, look at that. How bizarre.
Tanner hasn't had the best of luck recently, and I know that that's just going to infuriate him. I feel sorry for him today.
Meanwhile, the second place battle in GTO has, well, actually battle for the lead, I should point out. Rob Olenek, Mukanos, and Thompson all fighting it out. They've dropped Hovdal. He unfortunately somewhere along the line lost touch with him and is no longer in the draft. They got some company coming up behind here. That's Tobias Gerber.
Yeah, these Audi leaders are basically just doing what you do at Daytona a lot of times, which is hang out and wait until the last couple laps to try and make something work. We're looking at Tobias Gerber as he's going to try and pass these guys before they get down to the next chicane. He's going to go around the outside of Nicholas Mukanos. But is he going to make it there before the turn?
He's trying to. They have much better braking. And, oh, he's a little hot into the corner. He made it through. And he's going to be clear.
Yeah, I'd say that's worth it. It's worth taking that risk because if you get stuck behind these GTOs, Tommy on Hola behind him, he's catching quick, and you really do not want to get held up here.
Yeah, Tommy's actually within a second now. It was 4 before,
Riley!
and Tommy slides it.
And so does Riley. Riley Thompson slid it as well. These guys are all super loose as they go around the Parabolica.
Oh. He tries to go around the outside of Olenek and manages to telegraph that move through in time. I thought he was going to get squeezed into the green barrier to the outside. Oh, Albrecht's been passed for the lead. Fabian Gerber just got by on the oval.
I have to think that
Actually,
Albrecht is trying to manage fuel. There's no other reason why he would lose a 7-second gap to Gerber. I know Gerber is fast. Oh, Albrecht through the grass. That does cause damage to his left side. He has damage now.
Not going to be good for his fuel consumption. Let's watch the replay. And I'm pretty certain.
Oh, he spins it. While
Yeah,
we're watching
just
this
as we
replay,
went to
let's just keep
replay.
it rolling. Let's just keep it rolling.
There we see the bounce through the grass. And I don't think this spin is due to the damage. It looks like just plain old turbo lag.
He gets up on that curb there, and the rear left spins, and that just sends him into the wall. That's the end of his challenge for the lead.
Such a shame after leading the vast majority of this race. But you got to give credit to Fabian Gerber. He was hanging out in that group, that second group, for much of the time. Probably just biding his time, waiting it out. Now that he thinks he can get to the end, because he only has 4 minutes to go, I think this one is firmly in the hands of the number 2 car. Meanwhile, we watch the battle for the lead in the GTOs.
And I can say that our spotter, Don Peak, who's sitting in the background, is catching a lot of awesome action for us. He's reported that Luis... Oh, we're going to Albrecht. Albrecht is pitting right now.
Well, yeah, he's got to, with all the damage that he had. There's no way he can make it to the end now.
As I was saying, Luis Enriquez was also involved in an accident in the GTOs. He's also in the pits, as you can see in the background there. So Albrecht in an unfortunate position. We're going to go check in on the battle between Phil Lake and Cullen.
Brown going low, Lake going high. Let's see which one works out. I'd say it works out for Lake. He gets the shot off the corner, has the momentum. That moves him into P2. Now, they've dropped his teammate, Jamie Hall, by about 2 seconds. Not sure that unless he's got phenomenal pace, Jamie will be able to regain the time and challenge.
And our highest pitter, Tobias Gerber, has made it up to 7th place. While we watch these two battle, they're battling quite a bit. They're almost going to go side by side through this. No, they think better of it, but they've got an Audi who stays off to the right side. I believe that looks like that was...
Michael Haynes.
It was Michael Haynes, yeah. Yes, it looked like Michael Haynes' driving style. I wasn't able to see, but it looked like what he was doing. Look at this. We have almost a 3-wide battle for the lead in GTOs right now.
They're on the oval once again, being led by Olenek. Mukanos is going to have the inside as they come to the oval, but we've seen the high line manages to get a good run off the corner. Is that going to change things? Again, the car is just bobbling around, trying to deal with the bumps. Thompson sitting behind, going to get the double draft.
Riley Thompson was thinking about making it 3 wide going into the oval, but he thought better of it. He's going to decide to sit behind these guys and save a little bit of fuel, while Nick McConnell and Rob Olenek, 2 guys battling for the championship lead right now, mind you, are side by side for the lead of this race.
Let's stay on this, but we're getting the white flag for Fabian Gerber right at this moment. We'll go to him when he gets close to the end of the lap. But this is a scintillating battle for the top spot in the Audis.
These guys have been duking it out all race. They've dropped everyone else, and it's just a 3-person battle right now.
Oh, I tell you what, Mukanos almost got a shot up the back from Olenek coming into the first Lesmo. I don't think he actually touched him, but that was a close moment. Working their way down towards Ascari. They're going to get the white flag this time by. And from there, it's going to be a little bit of a crapshoot on who comes to the checkered flag first.
Well, quite frankly, whoever is leading when they go into the first turn out of the banking, that is the person who is most likely going to be able to win this race, unless somebody sends it up the inside of the Parabolica, because these drivers are so generally consistent. And so, wow, Riley Thompson has to get out of it quite a bit coming through the Parabolica to avoid getting into the back of Rob Olenek.
And as all that was happening, Jamie Hall proved me wrong. He ran down Lake and Brown, and they were three. Oh, and Cullen just got spun. All three of them in the wall. All three drivers out of this race. Can they limp to the end, or can Martin Krejcik and Steve Bycroft get them? How weird.
So while we've got that bookmark, we're taking a look at Fabian Gerber, who's closing in on the end of his final lap. Fabian, unless he makes a mistake here, is going to be able to come away with a win here. Quite a commanding win coming from quite a ways back in the field, able to pass Justin Albrecht even before Justin made his mistake. Fabian, a conquering performance today.
Certainly is. Now that those behind him have all messed up their races there at the end, it's an easy victory for Fabian Gerber without having to worry even about running out of fuel, which doesn't seem to be an issue because the number 2 car takes the victory and reinvigorates his championship charge. Meanwhile, GTO's being led by Nick Mukanos. Thompson going to try and look to the inside as they come up to Curva Grande, but they have to brake for this corner. Rob Olenek carries the speed.
This is the critical point in the race. This is where the final passes are going to be made. Rob Olenek up at the inside of Nick Mukanos. Wow, he slots right up in front of him. Impressive move. Riley Thompson thinking about going inside, but has to stay back.
Couldn't have timed that any closer. Rob Olenek, though, has to hold on to it for a few more corners. He's got to be clean from here. The draft will help the cars behind, but not sure that it's going to be enough to allow them to leapfrog him down towards Ascari.
I can report that Phil Lake was able to hold on to second place even with the damage he sustained in that accident. Steve Bycroft will come home third for the GTPs.
Just a wild finish there for the GTP cars. Meanwhile, through Ascari, wow, what a launch off the corner for Rob Olenek. Not so for Nick Mukanos. He's under threat for that third place. Second place, Riley Thompson manages to outgun him off the final chicane, but he doesn't have the inside. Nick Mukanos tries to stick his nose back in there. I don't think he's going to manage to get by Thompson, though, as long as they have smooth shifts to the line. No, maybe not. Wide. It's going to be awful close, but the win is going to go to Olenek, who's going to take second place. Was it Thompson? It was Thompson.
What a finish. What a race here at Monza Combined.
Let's see what happened with Cullen, Lake, and Hall. This was going through De La Roja, and you can only fit one car at a time through there at the best of times. Lake sticks his nose in. Oh. That's what spins Cullen Brown. Brown then tips into Lake, and Jamie Hall had no place to go to avoid.
And to make matters worse, it did look a little bit like netcode there.
I'm impressed that Phil Lake was able to limp away from that and beat Steve Bycroft to the finish of the race. So I believe we are going to finish things out here, but we're not done with our broadcast. We, of course, will have all the upcoming races on GSRC on your screen. But after that, we'll have the official results as well as driver interviews. So stick around. Welcome back to Monza, where we just watched round 5 of the iRacing Kamel GT series. And it was Fabian Gerber who wound up taking the win in the prototypes. He kind of snuck one in on everybody as he saved fuel early, and then by the end of the race, once he felt confident, he just scattered away from the rest of the field. Now, Phil Lake did finish second, and he was 30 seconds behind Fabian Gerber, but it would have been closer had he not been involved in the last lap accident that he somehow survived compared to those around him. Steve Bycroft jumped up a couple positions because of that accident and found himself on the podium. Same thing with Martin Krejcik. He went from 11th to 4th, but that's not nearly as impressive as our driver highest to finish with a pit stop here in this race. That's Tommy Unhola, 14th to 5th. That worked out for him. He was ahead of Tobias Gerber in the end, who wound up in 6th. Then Cullen Brown, also again involved in that last lap accident. He wound up having to settle for 7th. John Keefe in P8, and then Justin Albrecht, our pole sitter, wound up wrecking with just a couple laps to go, and he finishes 9th. First car lap down is Jamie Hall, P10. Johnny Bell finishes 11th, and the last of our drivers to finish, I think, in the prototypes is Juha Ihalainen in 12th position. Adam?
Yeah, we have Rob Olenek, who's going to come home with the win in the GTOs. A good battle all the way to the last lap. Riley Thompson was able to hold off Nick Mukanos by only 3/100ths of a second, I believe. Yes. And then Matthias Hovdahl lost that lead pack of 3 cars about 15 minutes to go in the race. Comes home 10 seconds behind in 4th position. Reed Miller unable to catch the lead pack as well, coming home in your top 5. Then we have Henry Pikanen in 6th position. Luis Fernando Simoes in 7th. Michael Haynes in 8th. A good finish for him. Luis Henriquez comes home 9th after his accident. And then in 10th is Stephen Jones. Then we start our DNFs with Luis Emerton, Tara McCullough, Dave Cohen, Riley Downey, Jewel Fletcher-Wolf, Fabian Jungluck, Clayton McLeod, Timu Toika, Eric Lukal, Mitchell Velker, Stephen Workup, Dawid Melnarovic, Radar Anderson, and Zachary Buchanan is going to round out the field.
Quite a few drivers did not wind up seeing the finish, but one driver first was Fabian Gerber. Fabian, I think the rest of the field, including us, got a little snookered by you because you didn't seem that much of a factor, and then suddenly at the end of the race, you took off like a shot. I have to guess, did you save fuel early?
Yes, all the time. I from lap 1 on till about lap 13, I think, or 14, I saved fuel all the time, yes. I always try to stay behind other guys so I could save fuel because I knew that I couldn't make it otherwise. So that was the plan from the beginning.
How close was it at the end on fuel? Did you happen to get a glance at your gauge?
Yes, well, I didn't have to because I didn't make it back to pit, so that says it all.
So got it just about right. Well, this is a victory that's a little bit needed this season for you as you're well down in the points currently. So I have to imagine that this feels good, especially at a track like this that probably feels a bit of a crapshoot.
Yes, I actually can't believe I won because I didn't expect it. It's a bit of a lottery, and it was so tactical. You didn't know what the other guys do, how much fuel the other guys have. So I didn't know until really the last lap that I'm gonna win it if I don't mess it up.
Well, that probably makes it feel extra special when you cross the line then. Congratulations on another victory. We look forward to seeing you at Road Atlanta.
Thanks a lot. I look forward to next week. Bye, guys.
I'm sure he's ready to put this one behind him. Up next, Adam is going to be talking to Phil Lake.
Yeah, Phil, amazing that you finished second after that last lap accident. Talk me through it. What happened?
Yeah, I mostly come in here to apologize for that because I knew I needed to be in front of Cullen going into the GP circuit. I hadn't had a run good enough on anybody the whole race to pass them anywhere other than, or basically I had to be in front going into the GP circuit, and I took a chance and it really didn't work out well. So yeah, I'm sorry that I ended those two guys' races, Jamie's as well. But yeah, I thought I was just enough up the inside to make it work. It was actually a pretty big netcode on my end, but it was probably a dumb move by me.
Yeah, well, you were able to manage to limp it home and come home second ahead of Steve Bycroft. What are those points super important to you at this point, or are you just racing for wins at this point in the season?
I think I've already got too many weeks that with bad scores, so I'm just basically trying to get the best result possible each week and just not really thinking about the championship.
Definitely. Well, Phil, sorry about your accident, but a good finish today nonetheless. And is there anyone you want to thank today or anything else you want to say?
No, just thanks to you guys and congrats to Fabian. It was a very tactical race, so yeah, he definitely had the right strategy today.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Phil.
And with that, we've got one more driver to talk to. That is Tommy Unhola, who finished 5th in the prototypes. But the significant thing is Tommy was the highest car to finish who took a pit stop today. Tommy, it seems like you made the call early to come in and take that fuel.
Oh yeah, there was couple Audis in front and I thought I had one more lap of fuel and I thought I bit that lap and I was actually thinking about going longer but I got the setup I was testing earlier and forgot to add the fuel, so but it was not bad. It was actually my first race in this series, so I had no idea how easy it is to save fuel, and I decided to do the pit stop, and it was okay, I guess.
What are your thoughts then if you're new to this series? I know we see you quite a bit over in some of the other retro cars like the 79 and the Lotus 49. Do these feel just as fun to you?
Oh yeah, this is really fun car. I have not raced it. I have been a bit too busy, but I have always wanted to race it. And guys racing this series are really good guys, like many other series I run. So that's great, and I have been having fun. Well, I have not been driving much, but it has been fun.
Look like fun out there. And apologies for cutting it a little bit short. It looks like we've got our winner from the GTO class coming to talk to us. Thanks for giving us a chat, Tommy.
Yeah, thank you, and see you guys later.
That was Tommy Unhola, 5th in the prototypes. Adam's going to talk to Rob Olenek about that victory.
Definitely, Rob. Really good win today. Where do you think it was where you made the decisive move to win this race?
Coming down the main GP straight and going into where I don't even know the names of the corners, but where the second chicane was, and right before that, coming through the other corner. I was actually just trying to get Nick and I sort of work together and keep Riley back in third and take 1-2. And I wasn't gonna take Nick out if I had a chance. It was really close though. It was fun. I couldn't believe we went 3 wide on the second part of the oval and held it.
Yeah, definitely. You guys were battling this entire race. So did this feel a little bit like Daytona, just kind of biding your time until the last couple laps to see what you could do? Or were you really ringing it out there the whole way around?
It is. It's like Daytona. It's like Le Mans. The draft in this car is so strong that like you just can't get away. Even if a guy is a half a second, almost a second a lap slower than you, you're just going to drag him along. So there was times coming through like that second chicane area where I could pull a 1 second gap, but it didn't make a difference. So it became, I need to maybe save fuel. I still wasn't even unsure after doing a practice race the other day because I didn't have the drafting with guys. So, I got behind Riley, let him lead for a while, and just wanted to stay up there. It was kind of nice as some of the guys dropped off. It made it a little simpler when there was only 3 of us as to what might happen in the end. I would have been happy with a podium, honestly, going into this race.
Awesome. Well, thanks for talking to us, Robin. Congrats on the win today.
Okay, thanks. See you guys.
That's going to close out our interviews for the day. Of course, we have to thank the Kamel GT community for bringing us back for another season of coverage, as well to iRacing for putting us on the iRacing eSports network. When you get the opportunity, make sure and subscribe. All you got to do is click the big red button on their YouTube page. Thanks to the companies that provide the software and hardware for our broadcast listed here on your screen. And additional thanks go out to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of her great work. Thanks to the team today, Adam, Sean, and Dougie, with some help from Don Peak behind the scenes. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. We're also on social media. You can find us on Twitter at GSR Channel, Facebook at Global Sim Racing Channel, and Instagram at GSRC_Gram. The next race, that is going to be at Road Atlanta, Saturday, July 20th at 1 p.m. Eastern. But we also have other upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. Until next time, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.